The wind screamed through the frozen mountains like it was alive, slamming into the small wooden cabin again and again, as if trying to tear it from the earth. Snow buried everything in sight, swallowing trees, trails, and hope itself. Inside that cabin, a young woman cried out in pain, her voice cracking as another wave tore through her body. There was no doctor, no town, no help coming. Considered impossible by nature itself, she was giving birth in the dead of winter, alone, terrified, and far from civilization. Outside, a lone cowboy stood in the storm, his coat stiff with ice, his hands numb, staring at the dark horizon. He knew something was wrong. He knew that if the night won, no one inside would live to see the morning. The woman's name was Eliza, and she had arrived at the mountain ranch months earlier, nearly frozen, half-starved, and desperate. She never said much about her past. All Caleb knew was that she was young, strong in spirit, and carrying a life inside her. Or so he thought. Caleb Rourke was a rancher who lived far from towns and people, choosing silence over society and solitude over lies. The mountains were cruel, but honest. They took what they wanted and spared no one. When Eliza collapsed near his barn one cold evening, Caleb did what he always did. He helped, without questions, without promises. Winter arrived early that year, harder than anyone remembered. Snow fell without mercy, blocking every trail. Wolves came down from higher ground. The sky stayed gray for weeks, and the cold crept into bone and soul. Caleb tried once to ride to town for supplies, but the storm nearly killed him. He returned frostbitten and angry, knowing they were trapped until spring. Eliza's belly had grown faster than expected, but neither of them understood why. She complained of pain, of pressure, of fear she couldn't explain. Then one night, when the wind howled louder than ever before, she screamed, and everything changed. Caleb rushed inside to find her shaking, sweat freezing on her skin as her body betrayed her strength. He tried to stay calm, but when he felt her stomach, when he saw her terror, he knew this was no normal birth. The pain came in violent waves, stealing her breath, breaking her resolve. Then it happened. One cry, small and fragile, cut through the storm. A baby. Alive. But barely. Caleb wrapped the newborn in cloth, his hands trembling. He thought it was over. He was wrong. Another cry followed. Then another. By the time the fourth child was born, Eliza collapsed, unconscious, her body pushed beyond human limits. 4 newborns lay before him, tiny, helpless, born into a world of ice and death. The fire was dying. Supplies were low. The storm was not slowing. Caleb felt fear grip his chest in a way no gunfight ever had. He tore apart furniture to feed the flames, boiled snow until his hands burned, and cut his own coat into strips to wrap the babies. Their cries were weak, their breaths shallow. Eliza lay motionless, her life hanging by a thread. Outside, the wind screamed louder, as if mocking the struggle inside that cabin. The mountain did not care about miracles. It cared only about survival. Night fell hard, darker than any Caleb had known. As he sat with his rifle across his knees, listening to the baby's faint cries, he heard something else, footsteps crunching in the snow. Men. Desperate men. Outlaws driven by hunger and cold, drawn by the glow of firelight. They didn't see a miracle inside that cabin. They saw warmth, supplies, opportunity. Caleb stepped outside, his breath turning to ice in the air, rifle raised. He did not shout. He did not warn. When the first man reached for his weapon, Caleb pulled the trigger. The sound echoed across the frozen valley. Blood stained the snow. The second man ran. The third begged. The mountain watched in silence as Caleb made a choice he never enjoyed but never avoided. By dawn, the storm finally broke. Pale sunlight touched the peaks, revealing a world reshaped by winter. Inside the cabin, the fire still burned. Eliza breathed, shallow but alive. 4 children slept against her, wrapped in rags and hope. Caleb sat outside, exhausted beyond words, his beard frozen, his eyes fixed on the horizon. When a rescue party finally arrived days later, they could hardly believe what they saw. 4 newborns alive, a woman who should have died, a cowboy who never asked for praise or reward. He only nodded once, as if to say the mountain had tested him, and lost. Years later, people spoke of that winter as if it were a legend. They told of a frozen mountain where life was born against all odds, where death came knocking and was turned away. They spoke of a young woman whose strength defied nature, and of a cowboy who stood guard through the longest night imaginable. Some stories are written in blood. Others are written in survival. And some, whispered